We're giving away an iPhone 15 for our very first wallpapers competition. Full details on how to enter can be found on our Discord. And today we're also launching our 5th new pack for April, Heavenly Horizons by Wallrod. And this is one of our most stunning packs from our entire app, with 10 gorgeous landscape designs. And you can find it in our app Wallpapers for iOS and Android. WWDC is only 2 months away, which is great, but the next event is going to be even bigger. And no, I'm not talking about Apple's September event where the entire iPhone 16 lineup will be unveiled. I'm talking about the one after, as we've just had some recent leaks showcasing everything that Apple has planned for us. And it turns out that despite literally just getting the M3 MacBook Air, Apple will be launching a number of M4 Macs by the end of the year. And the M4 chip is apparently going to be divided into 3 different categories. Donan, which is their entry-level category, Brava, which is their pro-level category, and then Hydra, which will be Apple's highest-end category. Okay, so let's start with Donan. This looks to be the standard M4 that will be included inside the entry-level MacBook Pro, the new MacBook Air, a new low-end version of the Mac Mini, as well as a new iMac. And I don't think that a MacBook Pro or the iMac are any surprises here. After all, they both got the M3 chip back in November of 2023, so these M4 models are close to 1 year after. What's surprising to me here is that one of these new M4 machines will be a new MacBook Air, which literally just got updated. And when I saw this, I was like, oh man, I literally just got my 24 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage configuration of the Air last week, and they're releasing a new model in a few months? Well, the good news is that according to Mark Gurman, the MacBook Air won't get updated until spring of 2025. So if you bought an M3 Air now, you're good. And then the last standalone M4 Mac, aka Donan, is going to be the Mac Mini. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but the Mac Mini never got the M3 chip. So it looks like Apple's literally going to skip the M3 Mac Mini entirely and just go straight to the M4. So if you're considering getting a Mac Mini now, you should definitely wait until October. But okay, before we move on to the next tier of M4 chips, Brava, what sort of actual improvements should we expect from the M4 chip? Well, the main change by far is said to be a focus on AI. In fact, this is the idea behind Apple's entire M4 generation of chips, and really the reason why they're looking to upgrade all of their Macs this soon. Everyone's been focusing on AI heavily. Like, I remember when I went to the Snapdragon Summit back in October, and I laid my eyes for the first time on the Snapdragon X Elite chip, which had some very impressive AI processing performance. Apple's still very early on their AI journey. Right now, if you want to take full advantage of Apple's neural engine inside the M3 chip, for example, you have to use a third-party app like Photoshop or Gigapixel AI and use their generative AI or AI upscaling features. Now, we know that Apple's betting big on AI. macOS 15, for example, is rumored to include an AI version of Xcode, one that will have the ability to generate code based on natural language input, and other first-party apps will also take advantage of AI too. And sure, the M3 MacBook Air is already the best Apple MacBook for AI, or even the best overall laptop for AI if we are to go by Apple's marketing. But that is simply because it has a newer neural engine compared to the M2 and the M1 family of chips, despite the same core count of 16. My point here being that despite the M3 chip being pretty good at AI tasks, the M3 chip was never made specifically for AI, but the M4 chip will. In fact, it's already been reported that the M4 chip will significantly increase the number of AI compute cores. So my guess is that we might even see a 32-core neural engine inside all M4 chips, or perhaps an even more advanced neural engine in the higher-end M4 chips, as up until now, the neural engine has been identical between all models of Apple's chips. Now, there haven't been any leaks on the CPU and the GPU configurations of the M4 chip, but I do think that we might see some changes here. For starters, ever since the M1, Apple has kept the same 8-core CPU count, whereas these have increased over time on the Pro and Max variants. So my guess is that we might see a 10-core CPU here. As for the GPU, the last bump that we got was with the M2 chip, which bumped it to 10 from 8. And we might see another bump this year, possibly to 12, given that the M3 has kept it to 10, just like the M2. Which makes me think that if this does indeed happen, we might also see proper dual monitor support on the M4 MacBook Air and the M4 MacBook Pro. After all, Apple did add dual monitor support with the lid closed to the M3 MacBook Air. So it does make sense that at some point, they'll be fixing this limitation too, which could even be with the M4 chip. Now, of course, this was just Apple's entry-level M4 chip category, codenamed Donan. The second category, codenamed Brava, will include the M4 Pro and the M4 Max chips, and this is what we'll have inside the higher-end MacBook Pro, as well as in the top-tier Mac Mini. And what I'm really curious to see here is if once again we'll see that big of a jump to the M4 Max chip as we did with the M3 Max. After all, the M3 Max was the first time ever when the Max version of the chip was not just a Pro chip with more GPU cores. In fact, the M3 Max had a significantly upgraded CPU as well. Which brings us to the most exciting category, Hydra. Okay, so right off the bat, you're probably thinking that Hydra includes the M4 Ultra, as that's the only chip left. But we might actually get even more than that. You see, the Ultra variant of Apple's chip is something that up until now we've only seen inside the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. Mark Gurman claims that for the Mac Studio, Apple is testing both an unreleased M3 era chip as well as a variation of the M4 Brava, which is very interesting as this implies that Apple still aims to release an M3 Ultra Mac Studio, possibly even in June. But the bit where he mentioned a variation of the M4 Brava chip makes me think that this is the M4 Ultra. After all, that's what Ultra chips have been before, two Max chips combined. With the M3 Max, we know that the Ultra chip Fusion interconnect is missing, so it is unlikely that Apple would be able to combine two M3 Max chips and give us the M3 Ultra, which will likely be an entirely new chip. And you would assume that Apple would apply the same logic to the M4 Ultra as well. But at least from what Mark Gurman is saying, the M4 Ultra might bring back the Ultra Fusion chip interconnect and be two M4 Max chips combined. Because the Mac Pro looks to be the only Mac getting Apple's new Hydra chip, which to me sounds a lot like we'll finally be getting that Extreme chip that's been rumored for such a long time now. Of course, an M4 Extreme chip would either be two M4 Ultras combined if Apple somehow adds two Ultra Fusion interconnects to each M4 Max chip, or it might just be an entirely new chip designed from scratch specifically for the Mac Pro. One that lacks efficiency cores entirely, which is something that we don't really need on desktop Macs, and has pure performance cores, and also a lot of RAM. 512 gigabytes compared to the current 192, so a big jump. He does seem to refer to both the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro here, and if that's the case for the M4 Ultra, then the M4 Extreme might support even more RAM than this, possibly up to 1 terabyte, bringing the number closer to the 1.5 terabyte limit that we had on the previous Intel Mac Pro. Now, I should mention that the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro are only set to come in 2025, same as the MacBook Airs, whereas this year we'll get the new M4 MacBook Pro, iMac and Mac Mini, as well as the M4 Pro Mac Mini and the M4 Pro and M4 Max MacBook Pros, making this October event one of Apple's busiest events ever. Because on top of these Mac updates, we're of course also expecting the new 11th gen base iPad and the new 7th gen iPad mini, which I've talked about in our previous video right here. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on these upcoming 2024 M4 Macs, and feel free to continue this conversation on our Discord server, ZONEofTECH, link in the description down below. I'm Daniel, this has been ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.